I am a man on a mission.
For years, the YouTube has been plagued with riverlists not concerned with enlightening the public or inspiring the river curious community, but instead trying to make content and AI voiceover click and paste fodder, pushing some elite narrative based off hastily researched Wikipedia articles. I, Nico Cava, cannot watch this go on with widened eyes and bated breath. Unlike them, I use Wikipedia and Google as well as the innate sense within me when I go outside and breathe the beautiful oxygen God has bestowed to me and find the most powerful truth in the corners of my soul.
Number 9, onyx. Neither Playboy Cardi's son or the banded variety of mineral, the onyx is the longest river in Antarctica at a whopping 12 to 20 miles long, depending on the time of the year. It is a meltwater stream starting at Lake Brownworth that empties into the allegedly beautiful Lake Vanda during the sparse Antarctic summers, being one of the rare rivers to flow away from the sea rather than toward it. A completely fishless river, it at least hosts algae blooms and other microscopic fuckers like water bears and nematodes. Speaking of those fuckers, there are 57 billion for every human on Earth, nematodes, that is. They're the most abundant animal species on the planet, making up 4/5 of all animal life. And the last fact I'll give you is on February 21st, 2013, Onyx wrestled Cotton Candy in her much awaited WAW return in what looks like a South Florida greenhouse. Number 8, the Okavango, Kubango, or Kavango, a river spanning 3 countries with 3 aliases, beginning in the sandy kidney of the Angolan highlands, flowing south on the Namibian border and through the Caprivi Strip, spreading its wings in Botswana's Okavango Delta, a seasonal wetland in the northern tip of the Kalahari Desert, the home of the famous meerkats from the TV series Meerkat Manor. I used to watch this with my grandma while she would drink beer on ice in a whiskey glass at 11 a.m., one of my favorite childhood memories. Anywhom, among the backdrop of sparse dry deserts, not close to many other sources of water, a 1,000-mile river flows into a basin teeming with life in and around the water. The largest game reserve in Africa, the largest inland delta in the world, a remarkable biodiversity still virtually untouched by man. That is until Recon Africa, an oil and gas company from Canada, has began drilling for oil, leading to threats to the local communities and wildlife. Hey, you Canucks, stop draining the Okavango, or we'll let Trump drain your metaphorical swamp. Numero 7, Rio Amor. Our second straight river that passes through 3 countries, being China, Mongolia, and Russia. It's called Heilongjiang, meaning Black Dragon River in Chinese, and uses the Mongolic language Daguer's word Mur, meaning Big River. The Evenki people who live in all 3 countries' word Soluna Mur, also meaning river, as well as the Nane people who live in the Middle Amur Basin's word Amur, meaning great waters. Only question is who's copying who? The headwaters that birthed the Amur are near the Mongolian mountain Berk and Khaldun, the birthplace of Genghis Khan. Ever heard of him? Running 2,796 miles along the China Russia border and into the Strait of Tartary and the Sea of Okhotsk, I guess. I don't know that. Home to the towns Hehe and Blagoveshka, Tongjiang, Jeomusu, and the native Uche people of the Russian Far East. Pristine old growth forests like Korean pines and wild ginseng teeming with brown bears, musk deer, great tits, Siberian chipmunks, and the endangered Amur tiger, with approximately 256 to 486 left in the wild, and the critically endangered Amur leopards, which there are only about 100 to 300 left in the wild. No worries though, here's some getting busy. Let's fucking go. Also, the Kaluga, the world's largest sturgeon, and Siberian taimen, world's largest salmon. And you know it's serious because Jeremy Wade is there. Number 6, Rio Apurimac, southwest of Cusco in the wuthering heights of the Mismi, spurns the. wait, wait a second. Leche Mayo? What is this? The evil scientist Yakub's South American getaway? Anywho, potentially the farthest known source of the Amazon, the Rio Apurimac, popular destination for bros kayaking the rapids among the 960 identified mountains among its stretch, like the Nevado Ampay, Wayunca, Walca Walca, Cerro Huatana, and the highest point being the Chancoana at 5,479 meters. Okay, there we go. Just got to use the formula. The name derives from the Quechua Apu, chief, and Rimac, the chief oracle, which is pretty cool, as well as the constructed Incan rope bridge built around 1350 that was still in use 514 years later and still hanging in 1890, 540 years later. The Quetzalcoatl, I actually think I got that right. The Quetzalcoatl is another Ichu grass bridge constructed yearly during the second week of June by the Chiquibanda, Chacahua, Hunchiti, and Kalanaquejo communities in collaboration over the span of the 3 days. The tenacity of the human spirit combined with the traditions of ancestors and warmth and support of our community will always lead to built bridges, not burned bridges. Number 5, the Chuda. In the land formerly known as the Armenian Highlands, we find our next entry, the Chuda, as it cuts through modern day eastern Anatolia, depositing into the Black Sea just southwest of the self declared Dubai of the Balkans, Batumi, Georgia. Born in the Meshet Mountains, the Charu has some of the world's fastest flowing whitewater rapids flowing through the ancient Byzantine valleys, with the surrounding area being vital during the Silk Road trade network and also being close to the source of the Euphrates. Overlooking the river in Bayburt is the Machin Castle, fortified during the reign of Justinian I, a Roman emperor from 527 to 565 AD, popular for his legal reforms and building the Hagia Sophia, the largest cathedral until 1520, now a mosque. The castle was known for its purple and turquoise tiles, which was a great Seljuk motif in tile design. After Bayburt through to Ispir, the waters become well known to kayakers, even having 5 prominent rapids within 11 miles known as the Joan Collins set, starting with the dark and mysterious Joan, followed by Alexis, starting pleasant but can turn nasty, followed by the Bitch, which gets its name from being a bitch, followed by the Dynasty, which gets misspelled by the dyslexics into dysentery, and ending with the Stud as the river eases to the next section. Down towards Yusufeli, you reach the base of the Kachkar Mountain, which has the famous blind Ahmet legend about a man blind in one eye named Ahmet who used to go hunt mountain goats every day in the Kachkar. And even though he had one eye, he was a tremendous hunter who came back to the village with a dead goat every time. One day he came back empty handed. And so the same the next day, and the next day, and the next day. No goats. One of the elders told him the haunted girl was taking them away. So he went back up the mountain, found the haunted girl with all the goats. As she led them to the water to drink, he ambushed, shooting down and killing the goats. As she shouted to stop, Ahmet did not stop, so she used her power to turn him into stone. From that day on, even the fish could not live where the goats drank, and the blind Ahmet Pass still holds his stone remains. The river continues through Artvin and the Caucasus, going through many dams, including the Dedanir and the Yusufeli, which is Turkey's largest dam, which completely flooded and destroyed the town of the same name for its 7,000 residents when they were building it. Bummer. As the river continues into Georgia for the last 16 miles of its journey, it empties into the Black Sea south of Batumi, and that is the story of the Choru.
I am number four, Futaleufú, also known as the Futa for short, starts in Los Acerves National Park in the Chubut province of Argentina and flows through the Andes Mountains into Chile's Yelcho Lake in Patagonia. Known as un paisaje pintado por Dios, a landscape painted by God, which is also the way I describe the view of me painting the arch of your beautiful mother's back. Anywhom, the Futa has three major tributaries in the Rio Chico, the Rio Azul, and Rio Espolon, all being kayaked and rafted, with the latter containing a dangerous gorge called the Devil's Throat, which kind of reminds me of your mom. It has one dam in Argentina, the dam Amutai Kimi, with 472 megawatt generation capacity, whatever that means, and continues the rest of its journey free flowing through Chile. Endesa Chile, an electrical utility company, proposed three dams over the river, but the local and international community fought to protect the area and won out as the project was canceled in October 2014. Many large nonprofit organizations spoke to help save the local river communities, including one New York environmental lawyer, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has even been to the Futaleufú with Dan Aykroyd before. The first raft descent was in 1985 by a group led by Steve Curry, and in 1991, a raft group led by Eric Hertz and former American Olympian Chris Spelius completed the entire whitewater section of the river. The name Futaleufú comes from the Mapuche, meaning big river. And speaking on the Mapuche, they have a legacy from tremendous warriors like Leftaru, who became a slave at the age of 11 to the Spanish conquistador Don Pedro de Valdivia, who ruled over Chile at the time. One of his jobs included working with horses, which would have been foreign to the Mapuche before the arrival of the Europeans. One of de Valdivia's practices for resistance of colonization was cutting off the hands and feet of the Mapuche, two of them being Leftaru's parents. As Leftaru helped the conquistadors kill his people, he also studied their ways in silent hatred, waiting for his moment to escape quietly at the age of 19. The Tuque Capulacan chose him to lead the 6,000 warriors into battle due to his knowledge of military tactics of the Spanish. In the Battle of Tucapel on Christmas Day, 1553, Leftaru attacked and seized the fort, killing the governor Pedro de Valdivia. Another legendary Mapuche warrior was Galvarino, who had both hands cut off by General Garcia Mendoza after a failed insurrection. He then returned home and showed Capulacan his wounds, and a council of war called for attacking and killing the Christian invaders like Lautaro did. He then fastened large blades to his stumps and headed to the Battle of Milarapu against General Mendoza, making a speech beforehand vowing that he would be proud to be the first to die and use his teeth if he had no weapon left. Sadly, Leftaru and Galvarino would both be killed in 1557, but their spirit and strength would be remembered in Alonso de Arcila's epic poem La Araucana, published in 1589, making them legendary figures in Chile's history. Number three, Orinoco. The third river on my list is the fourth largest river on Earth, discharge wise, like your mother, beginning high in the Sierra Parima Mountains of Venezuela and Brazil, and traveling through the soul of Venezuela in a wide delta full of tributaries and life before emptying into the Atlantic Ocean right under Trinidad and Tobago. The mouth of the Orinoco was first documented by Christopher Columbus in 1498. and the first time it was explored with its tributaries was in the 16th century by German explorer Ambrosius Ehinger, which is an all-time name. And in 1595, Walter Raleigh kidnapped another explorer in an expedition to find El Dorado, the lost city of gold. In the 1968 BBC series, The World About Us, SRN-6 hovercraft traveled from Manaus, Brazil to Port of Spain, Trinidad, in a thrilling showcase of transportation. The Orinoco has many endemic species like the Orinoco crocodile, which grows to around 17 feet, along with the black spot piranha, the boto, a pink dolphin, and the Orinoco goose. The Orinoco River Basin also has more species of birds than the entirety of the United States. The Irish singer Enya made a song called Orinoco Flow, released in 1988, which topped the UK singles chart for 3 weeks and received 2 Grammy nominations for Best Music Video. The river's name is derived from the Warao term for a place to paddle. According to Wikipedia, Adaheli, the sun god, originating from Kalina mythology, an indigenous people of the northern coastline. Adaheli was troubled by the fact that there were no people on Earth, so he descended from Earth to create them. Soon after, people appeared being born from Cayman. All of the original women were quite beautiful. However, some of the men were so ugly that the others found them to be intolerable. This led to the separation of the original people, with the ugly men going to the east with their wives and the others going to the west with their wives. What a great river! Number two, the Zambezi, the fourth longest river by distance in Africa. The Zambezi spans 6 countries at 1,600 miles long with over 500 tributaries. Born 5,000 feet above sea level in a marshy dambo in Zambia before it flows southwest into Angola with Luena and Chufamage spurting off as it enters dense evergreen forests and grasslands before re-entering Zambia with rapid waters and a small waterfall, Chavuma Falls, before dropping in elevation before meeting the Kabombo and Longwabunga rivers, which both jut off of the Zambezi. We also reach the Barotse floodplain, a flat basin, a place of many hippos, crocodiles, and lechwe, an antelope-type creature. Another waterfall, the Ngonye Falls, before the Zambezi reaches the Namibian border with the Caprivi Strip. Hey, I remember that from the Okavango. A very interesting panhandle usually has an interesting story, and this is no different. When in 1890 the Germans who had control of Namibia and Zimbabwe wanted to find a way to connect them, they made a deal with the British in exchange for the Zanzibar Islands so they could extend the Namibian border to the Zambezi River in order to gain access to the Indian Ocean. And the only problem is that the British had sold them a lie and left them up Schitt's Creek without a paddle because the Germans did not know the Germans did not know what separated the upper Zambezi from the middle Zambezi at the Zambia Zimbabwe border. Mosiwatunya, the smoke that thunders, Victoria Falls, one of the largest waterfalls in the entire world. Its sheer size makes the Zambezi an uncrossable behemoth, dropping water off a height of 354 feet and a breathtaking 5,604 feet wide, making it the world's largest sheet of falling water. Also, Musi Otunya is the name of Ricky Ililonga's band, widely regarded as the first Zamrock band, a genre of music coming out of Zambia in the early 70s, influenced by the Rolling Stones' Cream, Black Sabbath, and traditional African music. The river continues to flow east, cutting through walls of basalt through the Batoka Gorge and past reaching the Lake Kariba, one of the largest man made lakes created in 1959 after the construction of the Kariba Dam, providing power to most of Zambia and Zimbabwe. The lower Zambezi enters Mozambique with another lake and dam, the Cahora Bassa, before it continues to drop off lower and lower altitude before reaching the Zambezi Delta and releasing into the Indian Ocean. Before I reveal the last river, I want to let everyone know that there should be a video every 2 weeks. Some will be short, some will be longer, but 2 weeks is the amount of time you should expect to see a new video on the greatest channel on God's green earth. And without further ado,
Number one, the Tit Ass River. The Tit Ass River of Bangladesh. That's a joke. You know, we at the channel Nico Cava like to have a little fun sometimes, Anywho, the Titash River of Bangladesh merges into the Meghna River, forming part of the Surma Meghna River system in Chittagong, Brahmanbaria district. Titash Gas, the biggest natural gas reserve in Bangladesh and gas provider of the capital Dhaka, is named after the river, and the name comes from the Bengali tita, meaning bitter or wet. My guess is likely the latter, but I wouldn't be surprised at bitterness, especially at the reaction of the larger river community when I put a seemingly unimportant, meager 61-mile river after my previous 8 awesome and perfect riverless selections. My response to that, well, I'm the head honcho around here at making list, and the numbers aren't significant and rank for better or worse, but which ones I personally connect and feel more inspired to create by. I mean, one of the main reasons I had to create this whole video was the glorious Titash. But it wasn't the river, it was the book Titash Ekti Nadir Nam, written in 1956 by Advaita Malabarman, who was born in Brahmanbaria in 1914 to a family of fishermen. Sadly, both parents, his 2 brothers, and his newly widowed sister all died before he turned 20, so he lived with his uncle in the village. Malabarman became a literary editor of a couple magazines in Calcutta. After moving in 1934, one of them a monthly literary Mohammadi, becoming the place where he printed his first drafts of Titash Ekti Nadir Nam. He would continue to work on it for years, but he came down with tuberculosis in 1950, and close to his death, he finalized the manuscript and entrusted his work to friends before he died, April 16th, 1951, with this being his only published novel. It was then adapted to a film of the same name made in 1973 by Ritwa Ghatak, an innovative Bengali filmmaker. I like movies more than books, so this was always going to be my first choice, and it was an excellent film. You get a real sense of the environment, and the river is a prominent character. I'm not going to give an entire summary. If you want to watch it, then watch it. And it was filled with poetic moments and great staging and composition. My favorite character has to be Bashanti. I was surprised at how much involvement she had in the story. By the third act, she's damn near the most important and influential character, along with Ananta. Her mom was also an extremely memorable character, along with Uncle Ramprasad. I personally enjoyed Mega Tara as well, the cloud capped star, one of his other movies. I mean, look at these shots, man. This is just the opening scene. Goddamn. Goddamn, how breathtaking. There's no question that Ritwa Katak is an undeniable pillar in the history of cinema, and I'm not the only one to say so.
during the filmmaker's lifetime. And that's the case with Ritik Ghatak's A River Called Titash. Made near the end of his short life and career, based on a novel by the Bengali writer Adhyata Mala Burman about the lives of fishermen along the Titash River. For many years, when Westerners thought of Indian cinema, they tended to think of Ray.
And I think ultimately that is why this river is top of the list. Many of the other rivers are fast moving rivers, and some have large towns around them and big communities. This one has a small community that relies on it, and by all accounts, it's a very peaceful river. And those are often the ones that are not looked at, often forgot about. But you look at the stories that have been created off of it, and it really shows that, no matter who you are, uh, we have no chance but to be influenced by the things around us. No matter what we are, all living creatures are changed by their environments, and nothing tells us that more than big rivers.